Hi, this is Rebecca Threatt, and I'm here to talk to you about nutrition for our endurance runner and the case studies. Mike is his name, and so we're going to go into his micronutrient, macronutrient analysis and recommendations that I have for him. So first of all, we're going to start with an introduction to trail running, and this is specifically endurance trail running. Um, This one is kind of personal to me because I am an endurance runner and I really do enjoy endurance trail running. So I found this case to be very, very interesting. So, first of all, it is long distance running and it is actually really great because, as opposed to long distance or endurance road running, this actually gets you to be out in nature. You're running up hills, down hills, running through water a lot of times, mountains. I mean, out in the desert, wherever it is that climate zone, that environment is, you're out there running and enjoying being in it. A lot of trail runners they say, we run the trail not for time, but for completion. So, whereas if you're running on the road and you're running these standard marathons and half marathons, most people are trying to beat a time. Trail runners, a lot of the times, are sometimes, yes, they're going for a time, but mostly the goal is to complete. And you're not running the whole time. A lot of times you're, crawling up hills. Sometimes you're hiking, climbing mountains and things like that. So it's very much, it's very different than your standard road running is. It combines the physical demands of the long distance run with the additional challenges that you're going to come up against in nature and in the natural environment where the race is or where the run is. It's really interesting because endurance trail running is all endurance sports are the mind over matter. All sports, I think, are in general, but especially in endurance, you really are pushing yourself mentally just as much as you're pushing yourself physically, and it's a great way to really find out, your mental capacity for challenge, not just your physical capacity for challenge. So specific physical demands for this sport, it requires a high level of cardio fitness, muscular strength, and endurance. You have to have all of those three things, all of that combination of things to be successful in endurance trail running. You're often running, like I said, on uneven terrain. So you have to be well balanced. You have to be able to, have dynamic movement and all of that. And you have to have really good proprioception because you have to know where you are in time and space at all times. And like I already said, mental toughness and resilience absolutely crucial for this sport because sometimes you're really out there for long hours. So the races that Mike is running is or planning to run or training for are not necessarily the really hardcore ones, but some of these are multi-day races. You're out there, you're running for 72, 104 hours, something like that. You're going without sleep for days, maybe a cat nap here and there. You're out there really, really pushing it, like the Barkley, marathons, where only 20 people have ever finished them. So, and hundreds of people try every year. So it depends on the race, of course, but the mental toughness thing is a big deal. So, just for instance, this we'll talk about a couple of the races that Mike has already run. This is the Great North Run. It's in England or in Great Britain, and it's a 13.1 route, so it's a half marathon, which isn't that long, but it's out there in the trail. I pulled this description straight from the website because I always think it's interesting to find out the culture of the race because every race has its own culture, and this one seems like a really really fun one. Some are really hardcore and kind of aggro. This one seems like it's very fun. It's very community oriented. They have a lot of spectators and support. And you can see the runners even in the picture they're smiling. You won't always see in the advertisements for these runs. But I kind of enjoyed that, wanted to share that. So this is one Mike, our athlete, has done in the past. This is another one. This one that he has done in the past. This one, actually, they don't even have this race anymore. This year was the last time they had this race, the Mighty Deerstalker, Scotland's first and worst obstacle race. So again, in the UK, toughest off-road run, going through, they've had multiple deaths in this run. It's that challenging. It's cold, it's rugged. They're running at night, in the rain, in the snow, and it is a very, very, very tough race. But Mike, our athlete, has completed this race. So let's talk about some specific training and schedule attributes for a trail runner, an endurance trail runner. Training for any runner, specifically an endurance runner, is going to be a mix of, long runs. You're going to work hill workouts, speed training, strength training, and of course you have to plan in all your recovery periods. Your long runs are generally held once a week. They are the longest run that you'll run in your training cycle, and they are meant to build your endurance. They're, depending on what you're training for, these runs are going to be 2 to 6 hours. Mike's not training for anything huge, so his runs are probably going to be 2 to 3 hours long. It's really not going to be that big of a deal, depending on his experience and, again, the race distance that you're training for. Hill workouts are really, really important. Regular hill runs, not more than twice a week generally, so you're not straining your Achilles tendons, but they do build strength and improve your uphill and downhill running. Downhill is actually really important to learn how to effectively run downhill. So it's one of those things that's often overlooked, but it's very important. And then your speed training. So you use interval runs, tempo runs, fartlek runs, which is speed play. And it's all of that training is meant to increase your running economy and your speed. Strength training also is really important for, trail running. Core exercises because of balance, leg strength workouts, obviously, because of all the climbing and running, but specifically the climbing, and functional training designed to make sure that you have that dynamic movement to where you're not going to injure yourself. All of that improves your overall stability and power. So strength training is really, really important. And recovery, of course. So you have to plan in those rest days adequately and allow yourself to have active recovery, whether it's walking, yoga, something like that, all to kind of keep you moving, keep you active, but allowing your body to recover as well, to prevent injury and promote your body's recovery between training sessions and competition. So all of these races are different. The frequency and length of competitions varies. They can be shorter, from 20 to 30 kilometers, and then you have like the ultra endurance running, which is in excess of 100 kilometers. They make some really insane. They have some really insane races out there. But again, Mike is not training for anything too insane. Some popular race formats include marathons, the 26.2 ultra marathons, which are typically 50 or above, miles, and multi-day stage races. So where you have to run loops over days, or however the race is formatted. Many runners participate in a few key races per year, and that allows them plenty of time to recover between and tweak their training between their competitions. Generally, here in North America, our running season begins around October and really gets heavy in October, November, December, January, February. And some of our last races in North America are held in like March and April. Boston is one of the last ones. Boston Marathon is usually one of the last ones of the season. And then people start going overseas in the hotter parts of our North American summer. Berlin and Tokyo, those races they're a lot easier to run in the summer, and they're generally the big classics are all of them. But those are road races. So anyway. So these are a couple of races. We already talked about the races that Mike has done. These are the ones that he's training for specifically. The Wales Marathon, or the Marathon Trail, the Trail Marathon, Wales Trail Marathon. It's a 26.2, and there's a half half marathon route for a 13 mile. And it is all through trails and the tracks in a forest and a national park. I'm sure it's a beautiful run. Again, you see the runners in the picture. They look really happy. They don't look like they're about to die, like the ones in the Mighty Deer Starker picture. So this one, it looks like, is a really beautiful and fun run. This one is the one that Mike is training for specifically. The other one he's training for is the Tough Mudder, which most people have heard about if they're anywhere in the sports realm or even on Facebook. They're really advertised heavily on social media. They're obstacle course races, which are really, if you're into that kind of thing, super fun way to get out there and really test your physical limitations and your grit, because they got you climbing through mud and climbing walls and doing all kinds of stuff. So, but specifically mud is the big deal. You're getting really dirty when you do that. And yeah, these are really, really popular. And so this is another race that Mike is training for. So much more along the obstacle type category. So generally for athletes, some specific nutritional hydration needs that we see are that they need to be carbohydrate rich, because you have to be maintaining glycogen stores for that prolonged energy in an endurance type race. You also have to have adequate protein intake because you're constantly going to be tearing down your muscles. They need protein to repair and then to recover. And of course, healthy fats, which are important for that long lasting energy and of course for your overall health. Hydration is critical, absolutely critical, and especially with attention to your electrolyte balance. So if you're sweating a lot, of course, you're going to need to replace your electrolytes. And then especially we're paying attention to this specifically during long runs and race competitions. During races, a lot of people will intake energy gels, and we'll see in Mike's nutrition plan, he likes the GOO energy gel, so he's going to intake those. There's also bars, like energy bars. There are a lot of people will eat fruit. They are on the sidelines at the snack and drink stops. A lot of times they'll have bananas or oranges, which are really, really great when you're starting to run out of steam. And then electrolyte drinks, so Gatorade, Powerade, things like that. And a lot of people, and Mike will run with a pack, a hydration pack, and he'll have Noon, NUUN type electrolyte tabs that he has in his hydration pack, so that he can every few 20 minutes or so take a few drinks, and he's constantly getting that electrolyte and hydration replacement to prevent his dehydration on the trail. Post race is really important to recover with proper nutrition, replenishing the glycogen stores, repairing your muscle tissue, and rehydrating. So he has a specific prescription about how he hydrates before the race, during the race, and then again after to replenish all of that hydration and electrolytes. So let's talk a little bit about Mike. And I like to kind of say, who is Mike? We're about to figure it out. So he is a male. He's 36 years old, and he weighs about 78 kilograms, which equates to about 172 pounds. He's 6'4", so he's a tall guy, and his BMI is 20.9. One thing I do want to point out, because when I kind of looked at this and I was thinking, it's kind of a high BMI for such a tall guy specifically, but when I got to thinking about it, and doing some research on it, it's really not unusual for endurance trail runners specifically to have a higher BMI than a road runner. Road runners have a very, very low BMI generally because they are trying to trim that weight so they can go as fast as they can. Whereas when you're trail running, you need that extra muscle in the body composition, so your BMI is naturally going to be a little bit higher. So he's right where he needs to be. He's not overweight. He's not underweight. Seems like he's well fed, and his goal is going to be to maintain his weight through his training cycle and competition cycle. Some social characteristics: he is married, he has a wife, and he's got 2 children. His job that he has is a full-time job, but it's a mostly sedentary job. So he is seated at his desk most of the time. He is based in the United Kingdom, we can assume, because of all the races that he wants to do are all in the UK, in Scotland, and in Wales. And we're going to see, he rides the tube to work in the morning. So his commute is often where we'll see him eating his meals and snacks, because he can do that because he's not driving. He's just riding the subway. So Mike's daily schedule. So anytime I think about this or talk to clients or even think about this myself for myself personally, how does he make it work? How crazy is he? Because having, a wife at home and two kids and a full-time job, when you're taking something on like training for any kind of endurance sport, it's very time consuming to train for something like this. So how is it that he is scheduling in training along with all the things and obligations that he's got in his life? So we see here, this is Mike's typical weekday schedule, and the caveat being that um, he runs twice a week. So in his general training season, and I'm going to adjust that a little bit as we go through, and we'll talk about why. But his general weekday non-training schedule looks like this. He wakes up about 6:30, gets ready for work. He rides the tube into the city, and he eats his breakfast while he's en route. He stays at work all day. He does have, a snack at 10, a snack at 4:30 in the afternoon, and he does eat his lunch. He comes on home after 6, and he has dinner, spends time with his family, which is usually, hanging out with watching TV or doing homework or other household chores with the family. And then around 9:30, after the kids are put to bed, he has his evening snack. He hangs out with his wife, and then they cruise to bed around 10 o'clock. Now, his 2 running days during the week, he wakes up at 5:30 to grab about an hour of run. And on this run, as explains in our case study description, he stops. It's kind of an out and back. So he runs halfway, he runs out, and then he basically runs to this outdoor workout area where he does some strength training, just general full body workout, works out, 10, 15 minutes maybe, and then he runs on back home. So he's getting a good balance of endurance training with a little bit of strength resistance training. On these days, he generally consumes a quick pre-workout drink, which is no calories, no real, it's got some caffeine in it, and some vitamins and things like that, but no real nutritional value other than that. And then he in 8 ounces of water before he sets out. So on Saturdays and with runners, long distance runners, the weekdays and the weekday trainings always look really different than weekend trainings. And generally, most runners, endurance runners, will have their long runs on Saturdays or Sundays because that's when you can put the most time toward it. Now, when you're a marathon runner, usually your long runs are 2 to 4 hours long. He's not necessarily training for a marathon, so his training runs are only going to be max 2 hours because even in competition, he's not going to run much longer than that generally. So 8 a.m., he sleeps in a little bit on Saturdays. This is his long run day. He wakes up, eats breakfast. He has plenty of time to spend with his family, with his friends, doing social things, but he generally eats on the same schedule as he does on the weekdays. He does his long run in the evening when it's a little bit cooler and the sun's not out. And then he does dinner and has more time with family in the evening. Same thing with the evening snack and time with the wife, and bedtime stays the same. Sundays are for rest and recovery. So he wakes up at 8, has a breakfast. He heads on to church, does some community service stuff, whatever he wants to do between the hours of 10 to 1, even a little bit later than that. And he takes care of himself. He's really good with recovery. Every week he goes in, he has a massage session with a sports massage therapist who stretches him out really well and helps him recover from the long run that he had, the day before and before his week of regularly scheduled training runs. And he's always in bed by 10, which is really important. As we know, it's always good to keep that general schedule. Now let's talk a little bit about his nutritional plan, how I came up with his nutritional plan and the management tool that we're going to be talking about, the MacroFactor app. So in calculating Mike's nutritional needs, I use the Mifflin-St. Jeor equation, which is a well-established and recognized formula. And it goes through, we talked about a few, or we've read about a few different methods that are used to do this, but we estimate resting energy expenditure and the basal metabolic rate. It considers weight, height, sex, age, and comes up with his calculated value for energy expenditure at rest. And then we go through and calculate what his total needs and all of that. So there are a lot of studies out there that have been consistent in showing support for the idea that this is an effective and accurate equation to use across the board for a lot of different population. And specifically because you can use this equation for people who are obese and have, a lot of comorbidities, or non-obese people, in our case, Mike, who is in generally, really good health, and he's actually, very athletic. So, and there's some studies that are here documented if you're interested in reading more about that. So here are the calculations. This is a calculation of BMR and then total daily energy expenditure. He is 78 kilograms, so you see that number in there. Now, we do also take into account on the days where he trains, he needs additional calories, specifically on that long run day on Saturday. And then on days that he competes, we'll talk about that too. So he does need about 700 extra calories on those days. His nutritional plan outline looks a little bit like this. His daily nutritional intake, carbs, 55 to 60% of his daily caloric intake. He's going to be, part of the goal is going to be for him to seek these in whole grains, fruits, vegetables, legumes, high quality sources, essentially. His goal is going to be 6 to 10 grams per kilogram of body weight. And I know a lot of, like our book says 5 to 7. We're going to kick that up a little bit for him because he is an endurance runner in running trails, which is a little bit more extreme than your average road endurance running. Proteins, 15 to 20% of daily caloric intake. Again, really high quality sources. So lean meats, fish, eggs, dairy, plant-based proteins. You'll see a little bit of this all, throughout his nutritional plan. You'll see some tofu, some eggs, some fish, some, dairy. It's all in there. Goal being 1.2 to 1.7 grams per kilogram of body weight. With fats, 20 to 30% of his daily caloric intake. Again, high quality sources, nuts, seeds, avocados, olive oil, fatty fish like salmon. Goal being 0.8 to 2 grams per kilogram of body weight. So this is just going to be a really quick intro or overview to Mac Growth Factor, which is a really effective app that I've used for years now and that I would recommend if Mike was my client. That we will get into more detail at the end of the presentation about kind of some of the specific parts of it, but I wanted you to see what it find out about it and what it looks like, so that as we go through the nutritional planning, you can see where the numbers are coming from. It stands out as a versatile and adaptive tool for those serious about achieving their nutritional and fitness goals. What I really like about MacroFactor personally is that it is really easy to use. It's got an extensive food library in there. You can scan things, and I know a lot of apps have that same utility. And I found that MacroFactor combines that with some really user-friendly aspects of just visual representation. It tells you all about your macros. It keeps you visually in line. Like, you can check it throughout the day as you eat and you enter your food in. You can see the graph, the bar filling out. And it also tracks your micronutrients, which is another thing that Mike was really interested in, making sure that those things were present and in line for a person his age and of his health. This is kind of what it looks like. This is a screenshot as given online on their website. This is, you see at the top, it, of course has the date, but those little bars are what I was telling you about. The first one, the blue one with the little flame, that's your calories. The next one is protein, fats, and carbohydrates. Even by meal, when you log your meals, you put it in there by time, and it'll catalog your macros and calories for each meal, and so you can really keep up, to a very small degree of detail, and it's great, and it actually is adaptive. So if you, for instance, are entering your weight and entering all of your food and your activities and things like that, it will actually change your recommendations based on whatever your goal is. If your goal is to gain weight, to maintain your weight, to lose weight, it will actually change those goals, or I'm sorry, the recommendations for you. Mike might not necessarily need that, but he might. I mean, if he starts losing weight during the season at an unacceptable pace, then we would have to go in and check that out. Where with Macrofactor, it might actually adapt and begin to increase his calories and his macros to where he's pushing for a higher goal without necessarily having to have a nutritionist there or me there saying, hey, why are you losing this weight? Don't you think you need to kick your caloric intake up, or whatever it is? The app should alert him to that before anybody else even can. So let's talk a little about his goals specifically. So SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. I love this. So some of these goals are to consume a balanced diet tailored to his training needs specifically. Being 34 years old, being a tall guy, being an endurance athlete. Measurable, he's going to use, he's going to be tracking his daily macronutrient intake and hydration levels via the app. It's attainable, so the foods that he's going to be sourcing are going to be accessible to him. It's not going to be anything super specialty. It's going to be all high quality. It's realistic because the plan that we're creating for him is going to fit in his lifestyle and within his schedule, and he's going to implement it within his training time frame. So and he's going to actually make adjustments to it as he needs through his training cycles, whether it's a training day or a competition day or a non-competition day or a non-training day. So the 3 goals that I came up with for Mike are to provide that balanced nutrition that supports his training recovery and his optimal performance on comp day. Also, because he is concerned about it, we want to ensure that he's got sufficient macro and micronutrient intake, and we want to help him to maintain his weight. He's at a good weight. We don't want him to gain or lose. We just want him to maintain. He also has no reported health issues, no food sensitivities, or food allergies. Just as a note. On non-competition days, we're going to say he needs approximately 2,800 calories a day. 2,782 is what we came up with. And then on his competition and training days, he's going to need more than that boost of about 700 calories. So we're going to be looking for about 3,492, so about 3,500 calories a day on those days. And we're going to see that this plan ensures that he is meeting his caloric and nutritional needs, and all of his needs for training, recovery, and performance are being supported. So specifically his nutrition and hydration plan. We're going to start with nutrition. And so this is day 1. It's a non-comp, non-training day. Again, about 2,800 calories on these days. He's going to start at 8. He's going to have his breakfast. 10:30, he's going to have a snack. Lunch he's going to have at 1 o'clock. And these are all really high quality sources of nutrition. Greek yogurt. This is a 0% fat Greek yogurt, something like a Fage or something, with a granola, which is a great source of a little bit of carbohydrates. He's going to put some mixed berries in it, and a little bit of honey as well. Whole grain toast, avocado, poached eggs. So really good sources of protein and healthy fats here. And he's always going to have a glass of water, a glass of water between 10 and 14 ounces with every meal. It doesn't take a whole ton to stay hydrated on non-competition, non-training days. Every meal that he has, he's going to have the aim of having 1 glass of water with with that meal. His snack's going to be an apple with some almond butter and a glass of water. Lunch, grilled chicken with some quinoa and mixed greens. He loves cherry tomatoes and cucumbers. He's going to have these a lot. And a lemon tahini dressing that he can get. He can either make it himself or he can buy it pre-done. And a glass of water, of course. Afternoon snack is going to be at 4 with some carrot sticks and hummus. Easy, easy to take with them to work. And a glass of water. By the time he makes it home to dinner, he's going to have delicious baked salmon, some sweet potatoes for a great carb boost, steamed broccoli, brown rice, another great source of carbs, and a glass of water. And his evening snack, he's going to have last thing he does basically before he goes to bed, cottage cheese with some pineapple. A non-comp day, another non-comp day, day 2, breakfast, oatmeal with banana and walnuts. Cinnamon's a great thing to put in there. Will help balance that blood sugar as well as adding a little bit of taste to it. Morning snack, a smoothie. He's going to put some spinach in there, make sure he's getting some good greens in his smoothie. Almond milk, he's going to use almond milk and banana, and he's going to be using the Vega Sport vanilla bean protein powder. And he's going to drink a glass of water with that as well. At lunch, he's going to have turkey and avocado wrap on a whole wheat tortilla with some lettuce and tomatoes, and he's going to have some mixed fruit as well. His afternoon snack, a little bit of mixed nuts and dried fruit, so a little bit of trail mix. Really easy, again, for him to stick in a baggie or have it pre-made and bring it to work so he can have it at his desk or whatever. At dinner, instead of salmon, he's going to go for the plant-based option of stir-fried tofu with some mixed vegetables and some brown rice. This is going to be his Asian-inspired night. And then evening snack, a sliced pear with a piece of dark chocolate, a little bit of sweet without, overdoing it too much on calories and sugar. Now, this is a competition day. This would also be a good, long run training day menu. He's going to start pre-race prep with a pre-race breakfast. It's a little bit light, but it's going to stick to his ribs long enough for him to kind of get through that race. A bagel, whole grain bagel with some almond butter and a sliced banana put on there. Really delicious. Again, nothing too heavy because you really, really don't want to be going out there with your belly full of food when you're going to do an endurance race. He'll drink a glass of water with this, but then he's also going to make sure that as he drives to the competition, he's going to be drinking 500 milliliters of water in those 1 to 2 hours before the race. One of the important things that we always say before we step off into the race is that we want to be able to go to the bathroom, but not have to go to the bathroom necessarily on the trail. But we want to kind of get things moving to make sure that our belly isn't full, our intestines aren't working on digesting anything, because we want to have all the energy available for the race itself. Now, during the race, which gun time is going to be 8 a.m., he's going to be having those GU energy gels about every 45 minutes, which is the recommended dosage for those. They're about 100 calories each, and they come in a little packet. So throughout that race of, about an hour and a half, 2 hours, he's going to consume 3 of these, which is going to be about 300 calories. He's also going to take those small sips of water every 20 minutes or so. He's going to be carrying that hydration pack on his back, so he can take that straw and just take a few sips out of it. Just enough to keep his mouth wet. And he's going to have those noon electrolyte drinks as well, just every hour, just to keep the electrolyte balance good. Now, after his race, he's crossed the finish line. He feels great. He did great. Maybe he set a personal record. This is about 11 a.m. He's going to have chocolate milk. He's going to have a turkey sandwich on whole grain bread with some lettuce and tomato, and he's going to have a piece of fruit as well, whatever is easy for him to grab. And then he's going to really concentrate on drinking, hydrating, 500 to 750 milliliters of water within that first 30 minutes after the race. And he's really going to want that water. His body's going to soak it right up. And by lunchtime, he's going to be hungry again. So 1 o'clock comes around, he's going to have a grilled chicken salad on some mixed greens with some quinoa, cherry tomatoes, cucumbers, and a balsamic vinaigrette. And he's going to drink some more water. Afternoon snack comes around, Greek yogurt, honey, granola, glass of water. At dinner, he's going to have salmon again with some quinoa, roasted vegetables, glass of water, and then evening, his usual kind of cottage cheese, mixed berries, high protein, good carbs before he goes to bed. So his hydration plan here, his daily goal is to drink at least 3 liters of water a day. Now this is going to change depending on what his sweat rate is. So, is he sweating a lot? Is he not sweating that much? So generally about 3 liters of water. Before he runs, he really needs to focus on getting that hydration in 500 to 750 milliliters 1 to 2 hours before running. Now this is really important, not necessarily for his morning normal daily runs where it's 30 minutes out, 30 minutes back, but specifically for his long runs and his competition days. So during his run, he's going to be drinking, like we saw. And anytime he runs for more than an hour, he's going to be incorporating those noon tablets in there. After he runs, same thing. It's like we talked about, he's going to have to re-up all those electrolytes and make sure that he replaces the hydration within 30 minutes after he completes his run. Now, adjustments are going to be really important. So as we go through training cycle adjustments, when he's going through those high volume training weeks, building up to the competition days, he's going to have to increase his carb intake. He'll focus on protein and healthy fats on the other side with the recovery periods. Now, the week of the race, he's going to have to carb load just a little bit. I'm not a big fan of like super carb loading like a lot of people do, but I do think increasing the carbs right in those days leading up, 3 to 4 days, nothing insane, just a little bit every day to make sure that he's really carved up, has some good glycogen built up, and he's ready to go on comp day. And and as far as hydration goes, increase water and electrolyte intake as is needed. We'll do weekly check-ins where he checks his weight, his energy levels, and performance. And a lot of people, as they're going through their training and they're following all the rules, their energy is dipping, or they're just not performing up to what they feel like. And that's when we look back at the diet and hydration and say, okay, what is it that we can tweak here? What is it that we think we need to do to make you feel better? Monthly adjustments, we'll adjust those macronutrient ratios based on the feedback from both his training sessions and how he feels like he's progressing overall. And the MacroFactor app is going to be a really, really, really indispensable tool with helping us to do that throughout his training cycle. So when I went through and evaluated this, it was pretty close. His plan, carbs, protein, and fat are there listed, and calories are all there listed. Between 468 to 780 grams carbohydrates. And I was generally under with my plan, but I think this is also, it's not hard to get carbohydrates. So I'd almost rather come in under and have him say, you know what, I think I need another banana or whatever it is to add into his diet. In protein, it was generally good, a little high, which again, I'd almost rather that be a little bit high, especially when we're talking about such a tall guy who is out there, running hills and things like this and doing strength training. So I felt good about where that landed. And also fat, I think good levels for fat mostly. So I was pretty impressed with the way that the nutrient, macronutrient, and caloric outcomes came out according to from my plan versus my evaluation. And calories generally were pretty good. If he goes over a little bit on some of his menu days, again, I really don't see it as being a problem as long as he doesn't do that consistently. And again, we'll be tracking his weight to make sure that he's not gaining weight at all. So let's talk about the management tools. So this is just, again, a quick overview of the MacroFactor evaluation or application. It's a comprehensive nutrition and diet tracking app, and it is designed to help users achieve their fitness and health goals. It has a huge range of features. that you can use just the most basic features of, or you can actually go through and it's kind of an AI sort of coach for you. Like I said, it is adaptive. So it uses an algorithm to adjust your daily macro and calorie goals based on your progress. So what is your weight? Where is your hydration? What is your training like? All of that. It does provide personal recommendations, and it does help you um, pivot at, if you're gaining weight, if you're losing weight, and that's outside of what your goal is, it actually adapts the plan to help you with that. It helps you track your macros very, very clearly. So carbs, proteins, fats, all very clearly labeled there. And it provides detailed breakdowns of macro consumption so that you can see as you're eating things and, where you might be going off track with your diet a little bit. And micronutrient as well. I didn't put that in there, but it does track your micronutrients. So caloric tracking, obviously that's part of it. And it does have a pretty comprehensive food database. It does integrate with fitness trackers. The one that many runners use is Garmin, and it does not integrate with Garmin, which is, I think, a major problem. And I've actually contacted them about this, and they don't have any plans of integrating with Garmin. So I'm sure it's some legal thing, but it would be great if they did. And if you have Apple Health or you're using Google Fit, then you can actually import, and they'll talk to each other, and then you don't have to really work so hard to manually input stuff. And then you can put your customizable goals. So whether you are trying to lose weight, you're trying to change your body composition, or you're just trying to maintain where you are, and it'll adjust your goals and within that. So it's a really, really cool app, and I would recommend it to anybody. It is a paid app, of course. It's about $5.99 a month in American dollars, but I know if you pay for the year, you get some kind of 15% discount or something like that, like they often do. This is my list of references. Really found this project to be extremely, challenging, yes, but it was really, really great to go through the whole process of thinking about the sport and what the sport that athlete needs for that sport, and then translating that into how are we going to provide that nutrition for this athlete, and then finding a tool and using a tool to kind of assess how we're doing. It was really, really a valuable experience. So I hope you enjoyed this information. Really enjoyed the class. Thank you very much, and have a great summer.